We are truly grateful to Khenpo for his teachings. Next, we will move on to our very interactive session. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask directly.
I'd like to ask a question. As a university student, I'm currently facing a lot of pressure. For example, from family and from society. So I want to ask, under this kind of pressure, how can I maintain a peaceful state of mind?
As a university student, it's true that some people nowadays in today's society may not have thought about their future. Basically, they think it's enough simply to complete their academic studies. Some people also think deeply about their own lives, including family responsibilities and obligations. There is a lot of pressure from various aspects, and in the face of this mounting pressure, on one hand, I personally think we need to be strong and keep learning continuously. We need to be mentally prepared and ready. As I mentioned earlier, society is actually very complex and indeed very unfair. Over the years, I've met many university students who often feel that things are very pure while they're at school. But after 1 or 2 years in society, their original nature basically remains unchanged. But after some more time, they end up going along with the ways of society. So one must have a very strong willpower. At the same time, you shouldn't pursue things excessively or in a manner that is excessive. Take Zhejiang the monk, for example. He used to be at Lingyan Temple, though I'm not sure if he still is. It's said that everything in his life was the result of cultivation, so what is there to seek? So, our status and wealth in this life are often related to our past lives to some extent. Although in Buddhism we are not entirely fatalistic. It's not that everything is predestined. That's not how it is. There are also temporary causes and conditions, but it is indeed related to our past lives to some extent. So from our own perspective, we should make an effort. But at the same time, we should also leave ourselves a little bit more room. In case what I pursue doesn't succeed, perhaps I shouldn't be too sad or too worried. I should go with the flow. Personally, whether it's spreading the Dharma or doing anything else, I try my best to go with the flow. I'll try my best, but if I don't succeed, there's nothing I can do.
Thank you very much.
There's a really enthusiastic and energetic guy standing right over there, looking quite excited.
Hello, Khenpo. I would like to ask about the topic of hatred. Could you please tell me, what is the Buddhist explanation of hatred, especially in Buddhist philosophy?
Who are you?
I am a medical student here at the university. Suppose someone wants to satisfy their own selfish interests and desires, and it hurt your loved ones deeply, the people you cherish most. He was even killed violently and tragically. This kind of hatred can now, in our society, be resolved peacefully through legal means. But even if it's resolved through legal means, I still feel like I can't get over this hurdle in my heart. So, about hatred, I'm not sure how Buddhism explains it. That's my first important question for you. I have one more small question to ask. I've heard some Christians say and claim that Buddhism is unnatural and contrary to nature because people who become a member of Buddhism, according to the traditional Buddhist vows, are not allowed to marry or have children. That seems to go against nature a bit. I'd like you to explain these two questions for me in detail.
What was the second question again?
Is that Buddhists are not allowed to marry or have children. They are not allowed to get married according to their religious rules. Buddhists can't get married, right? Aren't they supposed to renounce the world? Not being able to get married, doesn't that go against nature a bit? Because in human society, people often get married in order to have the next generation. Those are my two questions, and I sincerely thank you.
Your first important question was about how Buddhism deals with hatred and anger. Actually, as I just mentioned before, in Mahayana Buddhism teachings, whether it's, of course, as ordinary people like us, it's quite difficult and challenging for us at first. But according to the true and authentic teachings of Buddhism and its philosophy, when others harm you or treat you unfairly and unjustly, that's exactly when you need to practice patience and forbearance. This is what we call the perfection of patience, one of the 6 paramitas in Buddhism. Without people who harm you, you couldn't practice it. So in this sense, sentient beings and Buddhas are not so different. Why? Without sentient beings, we couldn't practice patience. If we are unable to practice patience in our lives, we cannot attain Buddhahood. Therefore, one of the greatest essences of Buddhism is to regard anyone, even those who harm us, as our spiritual teachers. For most people, this is very difficult to do, But the ultimate teaching of Buddhism is to patiently cultivate and develop patience in our daily lives. We should not repay harm with harm, nor should we seek to hurt or injure others in return. In this way, your own level of spiritual practice and understanding will continue to improve and deepen. The second question, Buddhism does not say that one cannot get married or that marriage is forbidden. Buddha has explained in the Agama Sutras and the Sigalovada Sutra, and the Sigalovada Sutra discusses many different things and topics in detail, such as the qualities of a good husband and the qualities of a good wife and partner, which is about how to care for children and other such principles. So in Buddhism, we do not require everyone to renounce the world. Nor do we say that everyone must go deep into the mountains and forests to become a monk. There is no such requirement. Moreover, during the Buddha's lifetime, the majority were lay people, and only a very small number were monastics. Therefore, the Buddha specifically and very carefully taught certain important and essential teachings for lay people and householders, such as the Upasaka Sutra, the Sigalovada Sutra, and others as well. So, Buddhism does not advocate or insist that everyone should become a monk. However, if certain conditions fully mature and develop, and someone genuinely sees through worldly life, it is also permitted to become a monk. This is the correct understanding.
Just now, that student asked a question. I'd also like to take this opportunity to ask Khenpo a question myself. Actually, I've been thinking about this because maybe I haven't taken refuge either. But I have always really wanted to get closer to Buddhism and its teachings. One question I've been pondering deeply is that Buddhism teaches us to let go of attachment completely, but every Buddhist practitioner is attached to being reborn in the pure land of ultimate bliss. Isn't this kind of attachment still an attachment and contradiction?
Yes, this is indeed also considered to be an attachment as well as being an attachment. That's right. Buddhism talks about attachment and non-attachment. In fact, Buddhism teaches the two truths, the ultimate truth and the conventional truth. When speaking from the perspective of the ultimate truth, everything is empty in nature and there is no attachment to anything. Just as it is explained in the Prajnaparamita Sutra, at that time, all phenomena, including the Buddha's wisdom and the pure land of ultimate bliss, are all empty in nature. Just like in the root stanzas of the Middle Way, Nagarjuna Bodhisattva provides extensive arguments on this, including everything such as nirvana. However, in the conventional world, there is the pure land of ultimate bliss. There is hell, there is the mundane world, and there is samsara. At this time, one must rely on the practice of rebirth in the Pure Land. Then, when you reach the Pure Land and truly and deeply realize the profound non-duality of the two truths, all attachments can be let go of. Chandrakirti gave an analogy. It's like in a dream, where there is fear, but also ways to find liberation. When you wake up from the dream, the fear is completely gone, and the cliffs and terrors from the dream are also truly gone. However, you cannot confuse the state of awakening with the state of dreaming. If you do so, you will mix up the two truths, which is why the Buddha said in the sutras, the most fundamental thing is to understand the distinction between the two truths. When we let go of everything and reach this state, all distinctions between good and evil completely disappear. Before you reach this state, good still serves to counteract evil. Therefore, we must certainly abandon evil and practice good, and the Pure Land truly exists.
Thank you very much. I'd like to continue. Just now, a lady in the audience mentioned a problem she encountered during her practice. She brought up the important idea of simplicity. How can I make myself simpler, or how can I live a simpler life? Actually, this is something many people think about, and I especially do as well. Is there perhaps a particularly simple and straightforward method that can help me achieve exactly the same result? For example, if I simply and wholeheartedly recite Amitabha Buddha's name 1,000 times, 10,000 times, or even 100 million times, can I also attain the same effect?
This depends on our own personal faith and beliefs. If your faith is especially strong and unwavering, and you have a solid, stable foundation from before, then the outcome may be different. Then it should be possible. But if you actually haven't reached such a high level yet, for most people, it's like the knowledge of a PhD student in our world. To achieve it in a very short time, or to obtain it immediately, or through some especially convenient method, in a way that is convenient, unless one has special abilities, it will be quite difficult for most people.
Thank you. All right, let's continue. Since we're at Zhejiang University, let's try to let the younger students ask questions and share their thoughts. We encourage you to participate and don't hesitate to speak up if you have something on your mind. Yes, we look forward to hearing from you.
Hello, Master. I'm a student at Zhejiang University of Technology, majoring in broadcast and television journalism. I have a question. Since I am just recently starting to learn about Buddhism and its principles, from what I currently understand, as I understand it now, Buddhism promotes the concept of cause and effect, and also teaches people to remain calm and composed, to accept things that have happened in the past. But since I just graduated from university, we need to work hard, strive consistently, and fight with determination for our future ideals. This feels like a different mindset. Is there a contradiction between these two, or between this and Buddhism? If there is a contradiction, how should we address and resolve it, and how should we view it?
I think that regardless of what kind of worldly philosophy or approach we follow in our efforts, it is important to remain calm, composed, and to keep our minds at peace. This is something indispensable and essential, no matter what kind of work or aspiration we pursue in life. If our minds are restless, anxious, or unsettled and disturbed emotionally, the chances of success in what we do under such difficult conditions are not very high at all. Therefore, in Buddhism teachings, before doing anything important, we should first observe our own minds carefully and deeply. After you observe your mind, if your intention is good, you can proceed. If your intention is bad, then you shouldn't do it. What does it really mean to have a bad intention? Well, it means that in this particular matter, my motivation is to harm society or to harm a certain person. Such behavior, according to Buddhism, arises from an unsettled and restless mind. Therefore, when we seek the truth, we should do so with a calm mind, and in such a state, actively pursue the personal goals and ambitions you are striving for in your life. In fact, this should be seen as non-contradictory. Moreover, Buddhism's view of life is not, as some people claim nowadays, completely and totally passive, entirely an act of escapism, that it doesn't pursue any kind of success in the present. This is not the case at all. Of course, Buddhism also talks about the concept of merit. If you lack sufficient merit, no matter how hard you try in this life, some things may simply not be easily achievable, even in practice. This is crucial. Some people think, no matter how hard I try, others have already succeeded, so why haven't I succeeded? This shows that you did not accumulate merit in your past life. If you had accumulated merit, some things would go as you wish, and success would come easily. So this is something many of us need to understand. Otherwise, we will always feel that the society around us brings us all kinds of unfairness.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Master. I am from Zhejiang University of Technology, a broadcasting major. Today, I have a small question I really want to ask. Because at the beginning, when I was listening to this lecture, there was indeed a brief moment when I was distracted. I believe many people here were also affected. There was a little girl behind me. She was shouting there, and I saw many people turning around to look at her. At that moment, I started to feel conflicted inside.
I was wondering whether I should say something to her father.
Should I ask him to take the little girl outside? But at the same time, as I was thinking this, I wondered if I would be interfering with her father's chance to listen to this lecture. In the end, I chose not to call him, but by not disturbing him, by not saying anything to him, by asking him to take the little girl outside, it ended up affecting me instead. Because sitting here, I just couldn't calm down. I couldn't focus on listening to the lecture properly. This kind of inner conflict happens to me a lot. In the end, the little girl left. I was still stuck in this internal struggle, unable to get out. I kept thinking and thinking about this issue over and over. I want to ask the Master respectfully to tell me what correct way to think about this is. Thank you.
Actually, what you encountered in your life is just a small, real conflict. But this kind of conflict, in fact, also, in Buddhism, we say, a kind heart leads to a good path. An evil heart leads to a bad path. So it's important to regularly monitor yourself. When you use right knowledge and right mindfulness to observe your own mind stream, sometimes you care about others, and sometimes perhaps you also care about yourself. During this process, it's common for some inner conflicts to arise. But these inner conflicts and struggles can actually be resolved very quickly and effectively. So I personally think we should always observe and monitor our own words, actions, and behavior carefully. We should frequently reflect deeply on the things we do daily. This kind of approach and method is actually necessary and essential for our learning. It's not just about listening to a class or dealing with a particular matter or issue. We should always be in a state of constant self-supervision and mindfulness. In Tibetan area, there is a famous treatise called The 37 Practices of a Bodhisattva. In the 37 Practices of a Bodhisattva, it says, always use right mindfulness and awareness to observe your body, speech, and mind. If your body, speech, and mind are not in accordance with the Dharma, eliminate faults. If your body, speech, and mind are in accordance with the Dharma, then continue to make further efforts. This is the fundamental conduct of us Mahayana practitioners. So we must always carefully supervise and observe ourselves. This is truly indeed a very good practice.
Hello Master, I am a graduate student from the Department of Chinese at Zhejiang University. Is there any difference between the Buddhist practice of supervising one's own mind and the Confucian and Mencian idea of self-reflection? That is there any distinction between self-examination in these two traditions?
I personally think that in traditional Confucian thought and philosophy, the elimination of the self is not analyzed as thoroughly and deeply as it is in Buddhism. Whereas in Buddhism teachings and practices, the analysis and deconstruction of the self-concept and how to ultimately eradicate it completely on the ultimate level of reality is explained very clearly and comprehensively, especially in important classical texts like the Entering the Middle Way and the Wisdom chapter specifically. But in Confucian thought and tradition, in the teachings of Confucius and Mencius, the focus is only on how to be a good person in the world. It does not, like Buddhism, completely determine everything as emptiness and ultimately show how to eradicate the self. Nor does it ultimately point to a state free from the four extremes and the eight elaborations. I don't think it does. It just places more emphasis and focus on altruism, gratitude, and filial piety towards parents and elders.
Thank you. I see a young man over there who has been waving at me.
Respected Khenpo, hello. I am currently a doctoral student pursuing my studies at the China Academy of Art. I have a question here for you today, because today I happened to see a very disturbing and tragic news story online that said a loving mother drowned her two young innocent children with her own hands deliberately. What was the reason for her two children? It was because, in fact, both of her children actually had cerebral palsy, as a matter of fact. After drowning her children, she also chose to commit suicide herself. But unfortunately, she was rescued. After being rescued, she personally and lovingly raised her children for 13 years. After 13 years, I would like to ask Khenpo, my first question is, what kind of cause and effect is this? Because according to my understanding of Buddhism, what we emphasize and discuss is inevitability. What kind of cause and effect and karma would lead a mother to such a tragic situation to continuously give birth to children with severe cerebral palsy repeatedly? My second question is, as a devout Buddhist practitioner and believer, how should we view and understand this situation? If, from an altruistic perspective, she chose to kill her children, because this is how she thought about it. If she died, there would be no one to take care of her two children, and they would starve to death. So she would rather ultimately choose this difficult way to end her children's lives. And then she herself also chose to jump into the water, choosing death herself as well. So as a devout Buddhist practitioner and believer, how should we view and understand this matter properly? Those are my two important questions for you. Thank you.
Regarding these two questions, actually speaking, in fact, mutual killing between people, as well as mutual killing between humans and animals, these deep and profound principles of cause and effect. Even during the Buddha's time, some arhats were unable to completely understand the deep causes and conditions involved, let alone someone like me. But in fact and reality, if we use some reasoning and logic carefully, we can also understand and see that because it's possible that these two children did indeed have a deep karmic grudge of killing her in their past lives. In this life, On one hand, they have a close mother-child relationship with her, but on the other hand, there is the karmic enmity of killing from a previous life, manifesting in this life. Otherwise, generally speaking, it is important to recognize that even animals have a kind of affection for their own offspring. However, when certain karmic conditions and ripened results manifest in people, there is no ability or power to control anything at all whatsoever. Even toward their own precious lives and existence, they may adopt an indifferent and detached attitude completely toward everything. So, regarding this kind of karmic connection, through inference, we should understand that in their past lives they actually had a mutual karma of killing each other. At the same time, as Buddhists, how should we view this? Actually, in this world, there are indeed many rather unusual and extraordinary cases. When we read some Buddhist scriptures, especially when you look at the Sutra of 100 Karmas and the Dirgha Agama Sutra, as well as the Samyukta Agama Sutra and the Vinaya Sutra, when you examine these scriptures, all kinds of phenomena in society. The tragedies and stories that keep unfolding continuously in the endless cycle of samsara and rebirth, among these countless examples, we all feel and believe that indeed, in the long river of samsara, there are all sorts of stories of humans taking revenge on each other. So I personally think perhaps we should look carefully at some Buddhist stories and teachings to truly and deeply understand their profound meaning.
Hello, I'm a student from the Broadcasting Department of Zhejiang University of Technology. What I want to ask is this. It's often said that Buddhism emphasizes reincarnation and karma. Some time ago, something happened that had a huge impact on me. I heard that one of my good friends was diagnosed with lupus erythematosus. It's an incurable disease of the immune system. I felt like everything happened so suddenly and unexpectedly. What I want to know is, through what approach or method can we truly come to know about our past and present lives and understand karma and reincarnation that connects our existence?
Regarding past and present lives, there are now many various hypnosis methods in other countries around the world. Some of them may not necessarily be real or authentic, but some are indeed very genuine and convenient practical methods. These are ways for people to trace and discover their past lives. That's one approach and method. Another is what Buddhism teaches and explains. What you did in your past previous life determines and shapes what you experience and encounter in this present life today. What you do in this current life now determines and dictates what you will experience and encounter in your next future life. In other words, and simply put, whatever I did in my past previous life, if in this life I am happy and have everything I want in all aspects, it means that I accumulated good karma in my previous life according to this belief. And what my future life will be like can be inferred from the karma I create in this life. This is what is described in the Buddhist scriptures as the indestructible Vajra words. So for ordinary people like us, it is indeed quite difficult to truly and fully know or even really understand our past and future lives, because people have a kind of fetal obscuration, and with this obscuration, basically the entire process between your past and future lives becomes confused. So you may not be able to fully and completely know or truly understand it. However, through learning from various perspectives, one should understand the reasoning behind the existence of past and future lives. In Buddhism, one of the greatest scholars is called Dharmakirti. Dharmakirti, in his work Pramanavartika on Buddhist logic, devoted significant sections to explaining that people should have past and future lives. The reasoning behind past and future lives is demonstrated through the continuous succession of our clear and aware consciousness. This kind of reasoning is used to provide evidence. So in our institute, there are several people who are essentially like your doctoral supervisors here in specialized fields. They engage in discussions with many intellectuals. Some time ago, when I was in contact with him, he said that in front of any scholar in the world, when it comes to the topic of past and future lives, he is willing to debate and communicate with anyone about it. He now has ample reasons. The more he studies these treatises, the more he feels that Dharmakirti, the great scholar of that time, was truly remarkable and extraordinary. So nowadays it seems that when it comes to past and future lives, some people are unaware, some are doubtful, and some are completely blinded and misguided by wrong views and misconceptions. Therefore, this important issue may require a much longer period of exploration and study, which is very important and crucial for understanding.
I'd also like to take this opportunity to ask two questions myself, if I may. Because as you know, in Buddhism, especially in Tibetan Buddhism, there is great emphasis on relying on a spiritual teacher and finding a teacher. But now it seems that, including among many people, with the development of modern news and media, under such circumstances, many of us, perhaps those who don't understand Buddhism or who may not be familiar with its teachings, may also hear some things that are perhaps unfavorable to Buddhism. For example, certain monks may be subject to some criticism or controversy. In such situations, how should we carefully distinguish between them? And how can we truly find our own genuine true teacher?
How do we find our root guru and spiritual guide? Regardless of whether news and technology are advanced or not nowadays in modern times, in fact, choosing a qualified spiritual teacher takes considerable time and careful consideration. Master Tsongkhapa, in his commentary on the 50 verses of Guru devotion, said that one should carefully and attentively observe a teacher for as long as 6 to 12 years. So now many Buddhists don't observe at all. They hear that some so-called guru has arrived, but they don't understand anything about him. Such behavior, not to mention relying on a qualified teacher in Buddhism, even if you want to rely on an ordinary teacher in the world, you still need to carefully look at that person's level of knowledge, learning, and so on.
We students have to evaluate our teachers, right?
Yes, as students, we also need to actually assess our teachers. This is very important. If you don't, and you just meet someone on the street who says, I'm a teacher, if you rely on him, it could be a bit dangerous. In the same way, in Buddhism, if someone doesn't observe carefully and blindly relies on someone, it's their own fault. Of course, some gurus are truly qualified teachers, but some people may not necessarily be genuine spiritual teachers. Some are just pretending. There are such cases too. But on this issue, students themselves should keep a clear mind and observe carefully. Actually, this is something all Buddhists should do. Indeed, as a matter of principle, it's not a fault unique to Tibetan Buddhism. Because Buddhism emphasizes one must observe and examine the spiritual teacher. But if we Buddhists blindly rely on someone else, then it means that the practitioner's method of reliance is incorrect. They should take responsibility for the consequences themselves.
Respected Khenpo, hello, I am a student at the medical college. I would like to ask, how can we settle our distracted minds in daily life? For example, sometimes when we practice visualization or meditation, we can temporarily calm our minds, but once we encounter the complex and chaotic outside world, our minds immediately become scattered and unfocused again. How can we keep our minds in such a stable state at all times? The second question is, how should lay practitioners adopt a vegetarian diet? This is a rather practical question. Thank you, Khenpo.
Regarding your first question just now, settling the mind within distraction may not be possible, right? Once the distracted mind is eliminated, then it can finally settle. When we first begin to practice any form of meditation or any Buddhist state, if we haven't previously developed the habit, our minds may easily and quickly become distracted and scattered unnecessarily. But as you practice diligently for longer periods and more frequently and regularly, and as you exert and apply the power of your own mind intentionally, gradually and steadily, the power of your meditation becomes more stable and strong. Therefore, in Tibetan Buddhism, it is often emphasized that meditation must be practiced for a long time. In the beginning, it is essential to have a quiet environment. Otherwise, as ordinary people, when all kinds of colorful external phenomena appear around us, our discriminating thoughts are easily attracted by them. The mind scatters outward or sinks inward, which easily happens. So at first, begin in a quiet environment. As time gradually increases, and after a certain period, even when you are among people or while you are working, the mind can maintain its own state of unwavering stillness. This can also be seen in the biographies of many eminent monks, great masters, and meditation teachers with high realization. It is evident from these accounts as well. Secondly, regarding the issue of vegetarianism, of course in Chinese Buddhism, since the time of Emperor Liangwu, there has always been a particularly strong tradition, including lay practitioners who also have the habit of eating vegetarian. In Sri Lanka, as well as in Myanmar and other Theravada Buddhist countries, there is not a complete emphasis on vegetarianism. In fact, in Tibetan Buddhism, we now also strongly advocate it. As for all Mahayana Buddhism teachings and practices, according to the authoritative Brahmanet Sutra, the profound Shurangama Sutra, and the great Mahaparinirvana Sutra, and other scriptures, the teachings in these scriptures say that it is best for Buddhists to be vegetarian, if one truly cannot be vegetarian. Then, while eating meat, one should recite aloud some repentance mantras to sincerely repent, and that is also acceptable. In Buddhism, we do not have a single requirement for everyone. There is no rigid one-size-fits-all rule, so it depends on your own circumstances. Actually, Buddhism should be considered a very inclusive philosophy. Every sentient being has different capacities, and everyone can have their own space. You just do as much as you are able, just like when we do good deeds. You can do as much as you are capable of at your own pace. It's not like what some people say, that if you can't keep this precept, that you will be punished or face misfortune if you can't keep it. There's nothing like that. When it comes to doing good deeds and acts, just do as much as you possibly can manage. This is very important.
This person has had an appointment for quite a long period of time and has been waiting patiently.
Khenpo Rinpoche, I am not a college student. In fact, I've been wandering in society for many years. After listening to your insightful lecture just now and after carefully reading many of your books in the past, we feel that you are a truly exceptional teacher. All of us have developed a great deal of faith in you. We could already tell from your lecture just now. Whether someone is a Buddhist or not, taking refuge is the standard for measurement. Today we have such a rare and wonderful opportunity. First, I would really like to have a precious chance and opportunity to confess sincerely in front of Khenpo Rinpoche. Second, I wonder if Khenpo could kindly lead us all in reciting the refuge prayer together.
As for this kind of confession, even just a little bit, actually, many of our students here may not have truly understood what the concept of confession is before. Since beginningless time, we have created certain karmas, especially in this very life. Some of you may have taken lives or committed certain negative actions. These kinds of karma must be confessed, regardless of whether you believe in Buddhism or not. After you start believing in Buddhism, you will also understand this principle. Even if you don't believe in Buddhism, you can recite some confession prayers. Reciting a confession is simple. Om Benza Sato Hung. Currently, our institute is holding this Dharma assembly. I heard the empowerment is this afternoon, and from tomorrow we start an 8-day recitation. Everyone is required to recite it 400,000 times. Some of you might be scared and intimidated. Wow, 400,000 times. But here today we don't require or expect you to recite it 400,000 times at all. Even reciting it just 4 times is perfectly fine and acceptable. This powerful confession mantra, Om Benza Sato Hung, just reciting it once sincerely brings great merit and blessings to us. Indeed, in this world today, we have all committed many negative karmic actions in the past unwittingly. If our negative karma is especially heavy, it will create obstacles in our endeavors in this life. For many people whose karma is particularly deep, especially those with especially heavy negative karma, whatever they try, they are unsuccessful. This is possible. So it is important to regularly engage in confession and repentance yourself. The second question was about taking refuge. As for taking refuge, you are also completely free to choose. If you wish to take refuge, you may do so. If you do not wish to, that's also absolutely fine, because taking refuge is not something that is forced upon you. If you want to take refuge, we should take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. It is actually not taking refuge in me, therefore I cannot truly be the object of your refuge. You should take refuge in the 3 jewels, which brings great merit and benefit. So since there was this request just now, I will recite a refuge verse. For those of you who wish to take refuge, just visualize in your mind that you are taking refuge and make a firm resolve, and that's enough. If you do not wish to, just treat it as nothing special, really. You don't actually need to cover your ears. It's totally fine. Even if you hear it, it won't do you any harm. Lama lar kyasam chigo, sanje lar kyasam chigo, chular kyasam chigo, genan lar kyasam chigo, lama lar kyasam chigo, sanje lar kyasam chigo, chelar kyasam chigo, genan lar kyasam lama lar kyasam chigo, sanje lar kyasam chigo, chular kyasam chigo, genan lar kyasam chigo. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Chondan de Deon Shabbat Jab Jambang Tabar Soba Sanje Hwarjara Shakya Tabala Shamsar Lom Chodor Kyasam Chigo. Chondan de Deon Shabbat Jab Jambang Soba Sanje Rinchang Sudar Janla Shamsar Lom Chodor Kyasam Chigo. Chondan de Deon Shabbat Jab Jambang Tabar Soba Sanje Kumbo Hogna Mebal Shamsar Lom Chodor Kyasam Chigo. Tesa Tripje Kinji Tukje Tamza Parmonam Chimse Nibetzer Lame Ishi Jimjer Chandra Tindra Konor Doson Jerosho Kandar Chiver Chiva Tamchet Tori Yondan Dabarsho Tima Tata Chudangja Tsurindo La Ranga Yobarsho Tayan Lama Tamba Mishijan Yandam Samo Chula Shabar Chutung Nanar Nyamboton Tote Sender Tripi Jamso Garasho Tribatan Bichurab Doja Zandar Dolar Kyong Meba Lachan Jando Shori Meba Tanship Shamsi Sanje Tobar Shoima Omsar Sanje No Antai No Isicho Tiki Chembola Yonda Sam Tashin Tom Sanji Shanza Home Gorki Godur King Omsar Hoda Meba Deva Janji Shavi Jankam Der Dojan Dana Sembu Germator Kiva Janji Varma Chobala Terikini Nandija Tirkut Dokar Monam Tabayan, Jobs Sanji Shansam Tamji, Common Rubber Shinji Lata Surtaya, Panzatria, Awam Bordana Yesuha. Sure, to be honest, I actually wanted to plant a seed of virtue for everyone here, but I was just too shy to say it.
Being able to listen to Khenpo's teachings this evening has been truly rewarding and meaningful. I also want to thank Zhejiang University and Professor Liu Yun for giving us this opportunity. I am an alumnus of Zhejiang University, a student from the class of '94. I previously worked as a doctor, and now I am a lawyer. Over the course of more than 30 years of life, I have gained some insights. I'd like to seek some advice from Khenpo. I'm not sure if my personal views truly align with what Buddhism refers to as right faith. The first point I want to make is that I believe all sentient beings should be considered equal. However, at the same time, I also think that sentient beings should have their own differences. In society, the varying statuses or positions of sentient beings, some higher, some lower, are simply a part of how things are organized, and are actually determined by the specific spiritual practice someone actively did in their past lives, as well as the practice they engage in during this current life. This is my first question. The second question arises from the differences among sentient beings. It's about the issue of benefiting oneself versus benefiting others. Precisely because sentient beings are different, the Buddha is also different from ordinary beings. So when it comes to truly understanding self-benefit and benefiting others compassionately, the Buddha is able to achieve complete and perfect altruism selflessly without any attachment. This also includes people like you, Khenpo, and some great virtuous monks who can also achieve complete altruism. But for the vast majority of sentient beings, for ordinary people, it may be quite difficult to achieve complete altruism in reality. People, in most situations, often prioritize self-interest first, and only after that do they consider benefiting others. I personally think so as well. Perhaps first of all, as an ordinary person, one should first benefit oneself. It's only after ensuring one's own benefit that one can benefit others. Because from a sociological perspective, if everyone in society were altruistic, the driving force for social progress might disappear. Of course, if everyone in society were only self-interested, that would also be an unimaginable situation. I'm not sure if this is considered right view. Thank you.
If you think about it, if everyone in society, every single person were altruistic, then no one would ever go to court. Just kidding around. Among all sentient beings in this world today, it's absolutely true and evident, just as you mentioned in your first important question earlier, there are many differences and distinctions. For one thing, the blessings from previous lives are different. Even in this life, the way we look, the amount of wealth we possess, the power and influence we hold, our social status in society, and the mindsets or attitudes we carry are all different from one person to another. Buddhism has explained this in various sutras about karma and its results under different conditions. I have studied the Sutra of 100 Karmas before. I noticed the countless differences that exist in our world. Although the Buddha said in the definitive teachings that every sentient being possesses the Tathagatagarbha, from this perspective, every sentient being should be considered equal. But the reason why each being's fortune, blessings, and good or bad karma are different, there are such disparities and inequalities even within this very life. I personally think, as ordinary people, it's absolutely true that we probably have a very strong tendency towards self-interest and selfishness. But right now, we don't require or expect everyone to become a bodhisattva, nor does everyone necessarily have to become someone who directly benefits others. The highest ideal for humanity is altruism. This is truly the most precious thing. Nowadays, in society, many people believe that from childhood education all the way up to now, and even in the end, they still think that it's enough to just look out for oneself, to be self-centered. If that's the case, then all kinds of societies in our world, in our daily lives, will never be peaceful. And achievements beyond this world, such as Buddhahood, will also be unattainable. So on this issue, we should also understand that altruism is truly the most noble and exalted spiritual pursuit, standing above many other virtues in importance and value.
Hello, Master Khenpo. I work in sales and marketing. Recently, I learned that Jack Ma and Jet Li both are now creating an association called Taiji Zen together. Jack Ma's view and philosophy is exactly that kind of perspective which strongly emphasizes balanced inner cultivation. Taiji can integrate the philosophies of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, the essence of these three schools of thought, and according to various contemporary discussions and differing viewpoints, there are many opinions about their founding of Taiji Zen. Some people think what they're doing is quite good, as it allows the general public to actively participate in this community movement, while others think that perhaps Jack Ma, having reached the peak of his career, now wants to make himself a leading figure in the world of thought as well. I've always felt that these three schools of thought, especially Buddhist philosophy, are profoundly rich and have a long history with remarkably deep cultural foundations that influence countless generations. I wonder if the Master could kindly comment on their approach and actions.
Because personally, when I was in school, we genuinely liked practicing Tai Chi together. At school, we specifically set up a big bag filled with sand, mainly for various traditional training exercises and developing strength. And at night, we would often use it as a training target. In places where the teachers usually couldn't see us, there was often a group of us kids gathered there together. That was when Tai Chi was just starting to become popular. But later on, as I gradually learned more and more about Tai Chi, I came to realize that it actually follows the natural laws and principles of the human body as a whole, relying on the vivid imagery of the Taiji diagram and the important concept of unity and harmony between man and nature. From the perspective of its theoretical doctrines, Taoism indeed has a truly profound and significant meaning. We haven't done very in-depth research in this area. Actually, every religion has its own unique methods or key points that practitioners carefully follow. When these methods are truly put into actual practice with sincere effort, they often produce genuinely transformative results. They are beneficial both to society and to one's own body. It's just that some people haven't fully grasped the profound, truly significant aspects of these methods. Instead, they start to fabricate and create things based on their own personal biases. As a result, the original teachings may undergo some changes. So I think that when it comes to genuine movements or concepts, people must carefully evaluate them with clarity and genuinely open minds to ensure their enduring integrity. It should be very good, but how exactly really? Different situations require different analyses to solve, each demanding thoughtful perspective and consideration.
Mr. Khenpo, to be completely honest, I have actually been feeling quite hesitant about converting to Christianity for several years now. I had seriously thought about taking refuge even before coming here, but during the process of considering it and reflecting on my feelings, I didn't expect it to happen so naturally. I took refuge in Buddhism during that process just now. But next, I would like to respectfully ask how I can maintain contact with my guru in the future. And could I please ask the guru to give me a Dharma name? Is that possible?
If you would like a Dharma name, please note that everyone who is willing to take refuge today can have one. Because during empowerments or when receiving higher ordinations, there is also such a tradition. If I were to give out names one by one today, it might be a bit difficult. So I will give a shared name here, the name Yuanli, which is for this. Today our topic was about Mahayana Buddhism benefiting others. Personally, I feel that even if just one person gains a little benefit and is sincerely willing to give and make consistent and devoted effort, so for everyone willing to take refuge today, the Dharma name will be uniformly given as Yuanli. As for future contact and interactions, we can see about that later. I have just recently started a Weibo account, so you can also check there. I just posted a beautiful photo of a Longjing tea field and many people commented, "Are you in Hangzhou?" So let's see how things go. It's fine, you can ask more questions if you want. We can take our time. It's also good to have more exchanges today. It's a rare opportunity for everyone.
Respected Khenpo, greetings. I am a student of Teacher Zhou. I am truly and sincerely very grateful and excited to receive your teachings today. Today, you told us that we should cultivate a compassionate heart, let go of self-attachment, be free from discrimination, and bring benefit to others. I think my question may be somewhat connected to the gentleman's earlier question. You also just answered in detail about the issue of benefiting others in particular. I feel that my own wisdom is rather limited, so I would like to ask the teacher for further guidance. I wonder, does truly benefiting others actually mean doing so at all times, no matter when or where? Or is it about finding a careful balance between benefiting others and also benefiting oneself? That is, to try our best to benefit others, because we are ordinary people living and working in society, we will inevitably encounter and experience various conflicts of interest with those around us in daily life and social interactions. How can we strike a fair and reasonable balance in these conflicts, or should we always genuinely put the needs of others first? Because personally, I feel that, for example, if I'm at work and I want to engage in a small business transaction, if I act with complete and absolute altruism and make no profit at all, but everyone has at least some degree of selfishness and will naturally think, of course, I won't use much of the money I earn for myself, but I will still keep a portion for my own needs. I can also use the money that I make to help those in need. I'm really confused about how to truly practice altruism. Thank you.
Actually, in Buddhism, for example, when it comes to engaging in business, for instance, or when considering business activities, we do not reject any worldly matters, including business. One can live a pure and simple life, focusing on clarity and sincerity. In this process, altruism does not have any particular requirements or obligations that you must follow. Everyone should act according to their own mindset and abilities, and take steps toward altruism. Some people may genuinely and truly let go of their ego and devote themselves wholeheartedly with sincere dedication. For example, some of our teachers and Dharma masters nowadays, they dedicate themselves day and night, quietly and selflessly giving all the time. But some people may not be able to do that. I believe that in fact personal development and self-improvement are not very valuable and don't have much meaning. What truly matters are things that are meaningful to society and humanity. Some people have the ability while others do not. No matter what, everyone should strive in this direction. Do as much as you are able to do and start from there when you are ready.
Hello, Khenpo Rinpoche. If you don't mind, I'm not entirely sure if I can make this question as clear as possible. Before thinking about this question, I was actually also really wondering whether I should ask it myself, because it involves the issue of life release, and I also participate in life release. From what I know, there are actually quite a few life release activities currently happening in Hangzhou now. The trend I've observed is that the scale is gradually getting significantly larger, and the overall organization is steadily becoming much more structured and systematically organized. There are also significantly more participants actively involved,
and much more money is currently being spent on life release overall throughout various regions. I also take part in life release practices quite frequently, but at that time I had a serious concern about this issue. My concern is this: we spend so much money on life release, dedicating a large amount of our resources to this practice. I personally wonder if it might be possible to use this money to do more things, not just life release, but perhaps to support other meaningful activities as well. For lay practitioners to engage in various charitable activities, such as volunteering in real life, like what Tzu Chi does, because it seems like we're doing too little in this important area of practice. I have personally seen some people do it, but it still seems far too little. A particularly large amount of money is currently being used for life release activities. I'm honestly not sure if I've made my point entirely clear.
Well, regarding your question, actually, it's not that you absolutely can't. Because when it comes to life release, after all, it concerns the life of every sentient being. Life is truly precious, extremely precious. Whenever any of us faces a life-threatening situation, we're willing to give up anything else if necessary. So if you hold an attitude of genuine equality toward the life of every sentient being, then the money that people have already pledged for life release is best and most appropriately used for life release. Other social welfare activities can be done according to your own personal circumstances. But the money for life release must be used exclusively for that purpose and cannot be diverted.
Thank you. Let me take the liberty of asking another question for my own personal benefit and deeper understanding and insight. Actually, I know what that girl just now wanted to ask. Let me expand on her question a bit. For example, in business, it's quite possible that you might have to do some questionable things in order to make money. But maybe I commit some minor wrongs, earn a lot of money, and then do great good deeds with it. If I consistently do more good deeds every day, can that gradually make up for the small wrongs I once committed, and then perhaps allow me to earn even more money?
Honestly, I've encountered many people like this before.
Because there are many such people around me.
They say they'll eventually perform good deeds after making money, but generally, after they've made money, they want to make even more. And then they say they'll do good deeds later, and it just keeps going like that. In the end, they never get around to performing good deeds, but they keep making money.
But if they actually do it, if they really make money and then go on to do good deeds, can this truly make up for the small wrongs he committed while making money?
That might need to be analyzed. What kind of good deeds did he do, and what kind of wrongs did he commit at the time? If in the process of making money he killed other living beings, because when it comes to wrongdoing, some wrongs are extremely serious. These kinds of wrongs can be very hard to make up for.
Not that serious. If he just tells little lies sometimes, he definitely deceives a bit. You have to in business. For example, if I buy something for 2 yuan and sell it for 10, I won't tell him the cost. I'll say I bought it for 8.
Right. Generally, when we talk about doing business, Khenpo Rinpoche also mentioned in Words of My Perfect Teacher that aside from sexual misconduct and wrong views, when conducting business activities, the other 8 of the 10 unwholesome actions are already present. So perhaps in the process of conducting business, the negative karma you create should ideally be confessed and purified. And then, with the money you earn, you should still do some virtuous deeds.
Thank you. We're almost out of time now, but before we finish, one last thing. That friend over there has been raising their hand eagerly.
Or we can extend for a few more minutes if needed. If that is necessary, just let us know.
Hello, Khenpo. I am a disciple who has taken refuge. I would like to ask how to accumulate the merit and resources, especially in our daily lives, that benefit our spiritual practice. Thank you.
The accumulation of merit and resources is accomplished through sincerely practicing mandala offerings. Also, in your daily life, always dedicate the virtue you create and give rise to the precious mind of bodhicitta. At all times, you should thoughtfully contemplate and diligently practice. When practicing, take benefiting others and the cultivation of selflessness as the essential foundation.
This really is the last question. I've already taken hold of the microphone.
All right, you got it. Thank you, host. I'm so lucky. Thank you, Khenpo, for coming to Zhejiang University to give us this lecture. I'm a graduate of Zhejiang University. It's been 9 years since I graduated, and I used to study information and electronics. I have two questions I'd like to ask Khenpo. The first question is, I'm in my 30s this year, and I feel that the trajectory of my life, many times it's been shaped by some of my own afflictions, strong emotions, and habitual tendencies. They've made me who I am today. I can clearly sense some of my own bad habits and patterns. So, is there a good way to quickly get rid of them?
You didn't make your first question clear, which made it somewhat difficult for me to fully understand what you were trying to ask.
How can I quickly and effectively get rid of my deeply ingrained habitual tendencies? The second question, let us consider. No one in my family currently believes in Buddhist teachings. I'm the only one practicing. My parents are already in their 60s and 70s. I'd sincerely like to ask how I can best help them gradually and more quickly accept it.
Why are you always just talking about doing things quickly?
Because at this stage of their lives, they're already in their 60s and 70s. For elderly people, certainly. Khenpo, do you perhaps have any suggestions or advice for good methods of practice, please? Thank you very much.
The fastest way to help someone understand is to explain it to them little by little, making sure to go step by step. Keep explaining it to them slowly, taking your time, and do so regularly so that they have the opportunity to gradually absorb what you are saying. In this way, by being patient and consistent, they will come to believe in Buddhism more quickly as their understanding deepens over time. As for breaking your own habitual tendencies as quickly as possible, the honored Bodhisattva Shantideva once said, "If you want yourself and others to quickly achieve realization and eliminate negative karma, you need to practice exchanging self and others." If you look at the way of the Bodhisattva, there's a specific line about this. Therefore, if we want to be as quick as possible to eliminate afflictive and cognitive obscurations and habits in our mental continuum, we must practice a kind of perspective taking, which people often talk about nowadays. Putting myself in someone else's shoes and putting others in my place. When we do this, it's significantly easier to cultivate an altruistic mind. Many of our habitual tendencies can be eliminated this way. It's the best method.
We'll end the Q&A here for now. If we do not stop now, the questions will just keep coming in.
Thank you very much to Khenpo Sodargye for his guidance. Thank you sincerely to all the friends who kindly came to our venue today to participate. With our shared aspirations, we engaged in a practice together. With our shared aspirations and sincere intentions, we spread the essence of thought. So today, during Khenpo's teaching, I also want to take this valuable opportunity to openly share a few of my own personal thoughts. Perhaps any ceremony can become very lively, engaging, meaningful, and inspiring for everyone present. But after any ceremony is over, as soon as the event has ended, what remains will be forever immersed in our hearts, always remembered. That is, really quite different. I sincerely believe that everyone who has gathered here today and who has received Khenpo's teaching, deep in their hearts will each, due to their own unique circumstances, we may each be left with different impressions. I'm also deeply grateful for this precious time and this unique place that has allowed all of us to gather here together, to share in the experience of learning from the teachings of a truly wise and compassionate person. I am sincerely, deeply, and profoundly grateful to Khenpo Sodargye for his wisdom and for the opportunity to be present in this meaningful moment. The topic of today's lecture is the non-duality of wisdom and compassion. The non-duality of wisdom and compassion is regarded as the most sacred and revered state in Mahayana Buddhism. With his compassion, Khenpo empathized with us, allowing each of us, even those who are ignorant, to receive a share of his blessings. With his profound wisdom and compassionate guidance, Khenpo has planted the seed of virtue in each of us. The warm applause, heartfelt appreciation, and knowing smiles from everyone allow us to deeply feel and truly appreciate Khenpo's wisdom. The fundamental essence of Mahayana Buddhism is the teaching of cause and effect. I believe that today's cause is a virtuous one, and we should let this virtuous cause grow vast. I think today's cause is a cause of wisdom. Let this cause spread throughout our city of Hangzhou at Zhejiang University, throughout our country, reaching into every city, town, and community, and across this beautiful planet of ours that we all share and cherish. We respectfully and sincerely invite Khenpo to join us in dedicating the merit together, uniting our hearts and intentions in this meaningful act. May this merit adorn the Buddha's pure land, repay the 4 great kindnesses above, and relieve the suffering of those in the 3 lower realms below. May all who see or hear this give rise to bodhicitta, and at the end of this life, be reborn together in the land of ultimate bliss. The Khenpo's notable and influential teachings are the origin of the spread of thought here at Zhejiang University in Hangzhou. I believe that more wise individuals will come to Zhejiang University. Let us all sincerely pray together for these wise and compassionate ones, wishing wholeheartedly that they may remain in this world for a long time to come and continue to turn the wheel of Dharma widely for the benefit of all beings. That brings us to the conclusion of today's lecture. I believe that behind every moment of enthusiasm, there is always a period of reflection. Let us follow in the footsteps of the wise and with mindfulness, journey toward the other shore of spiritual liberation. Thank you, everyone.